Say woo! Wow, is that the most fascinating thing you've ever seen? Yeah. Oh my God. What? Not again. Oh my God. I was just trying to pin the book. How do I turn this off, you guys? Oh my God. Okay, I think I did it. Is it gone? No, it's not gone. Oh no. Gone. Make it gone. Oh my God. How do you make it gone? I was literally just trying to pin the book, and then it made me a potato chin. I don't want to be a potato chin. My God. Oh my God. How do I turn this off, you guys? Beans. Nothing. No. Okay. Ha! Oh my gosh. That was wild. Why does that... You don't understand, Amanda, right? You don't understand what happened. I was trying to pin the book. I was just trying to pin the book. You don't understand. I was a potato chin. Why? Why was I a potato chin? I wasn't trying to be a potato chin. You're welcome. Somebody, in case you guys are wondering how baby is being entertained currently, I gave her the empty Nespresso advent calendar box, and wow, the kids are yelling at me, Mom, why are you laughing so loud? You can tell them I have a friend who has issues and she makes me laugh. And they'll be like, oh, it's Sasha again. Where you going, honey? Hey, look at this. What about this box? Don't you want to explore it? Don't you want to explore the box? What do you think about this nice box with all the windows? Can you open them? Yeah, nice box. Wow, what a box. Wow, what a box. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah. Tell me about it, kiddo. Tell me about it. Hi. Oh, hi. Yeah, I mean, you know, she's leaving it now, so I guess it wasn't as genius as I originally thought. Sweetheart! Baby angel. Hello. What about this? Can you come over here? Can you open this? What's in here? Maybe we should put stuff in each of the windows, right? And then maybe you'll be interested. What's here? If I put stuff back in them, hey, Jen, maybe that will, you know, interest her if I put her toys in it. Oh, that's what I should do. I should put her toys in each of the little windows, and then she can find them. Thoughts? Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think that's fun? Mommy thinks that sounds like a good idea. Let's see what she says about that. Are you leaving town? Where are you going? How's everyone doing? I hope none of you were a potato chin this morning, but you never know, I suppose. Anybody could be a potato chin at any time. You never know. You just never know. It comes out of nowhere, literally. I was like, what is happening right now? And then all of a sudden I was a potato chin. And the thing of it is I couldn't even replicate it even if I wanted to. Like, I don't even know how it happened. So it's not like I could even redo it for people who missed it. Wow. Is that cool or what? Is that cool or what? Anyone doing anything fun this weekend? Anyone have any good plans? We are going to a 1-year-old birthday party, which I have mentioned, because that's what you do when you have an almost 1-year-old. You continuously go to other 1-year-old birthday parties. I mean, really it's only 2, but it feels like a lot because, you know, I don't know, it just does. Feels like a lot of birthday parties for a kid this age to attend. And yet, here we are, attending them. Hey, Steph. Hey, Naisa. Yeah, I mean, she's not screaming anymore at night, so honestly, I'll take it. We're back to, like, she still wakes up, but she wakes up peacefully and quietly, so it kind of seems that the screaming was related to her being sick, and as soon as she was, like, fully healed, she stopped the screaming, and now she just wakes up kind of peacefully, so I'm like, whatever, I'd rather be awake and quiet than awake and screamed at, you know? Does that make sense? I think we can all agree that awake and quiet is better than awake and screaming. Right? Morning, Susan. So, that is where we're at. As long as we're awake and quiet, I'm gonna just roll with it. Hi, beautiful angel. All right. Hi. That's mommy's. It's mommy's coffee. So lately I want to scream because I'm awake. Sure. I mean, like, living in America is a waking nightmare. So I get that. But she doesn't know that because she's too young to watch the news. You are, and you're lucky for it. Yeah. Lucky you, huh? Yeah. Would you like some puffs? You want some puffs? What flavor is this? Mango coconut carrot. Wow. She also makes my heart flutter, Amanda. So we have that in common. I wish you all could have seen her yesterday. Hey, Isabella, at her play date with her friend. They were at this play place that has like a fake kitchen, and they were handing like kitchen tools back and forth and like stirring in each other's pans and pots and organizing it was the funniest thing. I was like, y'all are cute. I went into my office before I all got up, and apparently he knocked my husband's hand out of the way. He was like, enough from you. He was like, where's my mother? That's really funny, Susan. He was like, absolutely not. Yeah, they, no, that's coffee. That's for mommy. You have puffs. Mommy has coffee. That's just the way of it. We heard it. Oh, good. Okay. Baby E loves Aunt Sasha's voice, and then we sleep. Oh, that's totally fine, Isabella. We want you to have a good time at your activities and school and whatnot. Literally no complaint from us. The only complaint I have is less coffee in my mouth. It's too hot. Why did I do that? I burnt my mouth. You don't want that. It's very hot. I know the cup is so pretty, huh? But you know what? Are you pointing at this? Do you want more? Can you say more? More. Can you say it with the M? More. That's good shaking, but can you say more? More. That's right, more. Very good. Okay, there you go. Now you have your snacks. Coffee through osmosis. You know what? Whatever it takes. She gets secondhand every day, so you get secondhand coffee every day. You do. I wonder if I gave up coffee if she'd sleep. Do you think it's the caffeine? It can't be. I can't give up coffee. Could I? Should I? Would it help? She doesn't. No, she's not getting that much of it. Love secondhand coffee, that's right. Yay! Do you want to say any other words while you're here? Do you want to say da-da? No, you want to eat. That's fine. There's so little. Yeah, it's so little. And I'm only having 1 cup a day currently anyway. That's funny, Stephanie. Isn't that weird? That's so weird. Yeah, I definitely don't drink gigantic amounts. That's mommy's coffee. Morning, Liz. All right, so where are we in our journey? Oh, that's right. Okay, so for anyone who didn't have a chance to catch up, we're at an exciting moment in the book. Yesterday, she was given stories. Well, not yesterday. This is in 1909, so it was a long time ago. But she was given stories. All right, bye, Amanda. See you later. I feel like if you quit drinking coffee, it would be a sign that you're being held hostage. Yes. So she was told stories by people, and she's going to relay some of those stories to us now. So we're going to get to read those stories. Very exciting, don't you think? Yes. Here we go. This one is called The Woodcutter and His Cat. Delightful. NB. It's got a little note in a parenthetical that says NB. Does anyone know what NB stands for? I genuinely don't, but here's what the note says. I've been informed that this is the oldest folk tale of Parasmic origin, though one villager argues that it drifted here from Bardorp, a village 10 miles to the east. The story follows a familiar pattern in folklore. Fairies often aid mortals in roundabout ways, and their generosity is instantly turned into vengefulness if their gifts are unappreciated. Crazy, right? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? This just got washed. How is it dirty already? Hold on, let me get this off. What is this? Okay. You want it anyway? Gross. You're gonna play the trumpet for us? That's so nice of you. Oh, pay attention. Okay, thank you, Liz. That's what I wanted to know. So apparently NB is nota bene. Pay attention, like a good note. Okay. In Italian, that means good note. So good to pay attention to, I guess is what they're trying to say. And here we go. The first story, The Woodcutter and His Cat. A woodcutter dwelt at the edge of the forest in a tiny hut that was all he could afford, and he could barely hold body and soul together. Thank you, Kylie. In his youth, after a night of drinking, he became lost and wandered into the mountains. He lost his right hand to frostbite and was terribly disfigured. Crazy, right? Yeah. The woodcutter struggled in his work, naturally, and was sometimes forced to borrow money from his brother, who never missed the chance to rail against his foolishness, although the brother was a rich man whose larder was always full. Near the woodcutter's house, along the path, there was a path that was sometimes there and sometimes not, a fairy tree. Its leaves were red and golden no matter the season, and abundant even in winter. It was huge and hoary. Not hairy, hoary. Hoary. Why are you sticking your fingers down your throat, baby angel? It's so interesting for you to try new things that you must do that. Yeah? Okay. Well, it's a choice. With knots like windows for the folk to peep through. She might be getting back teeth. It's totally true. Though lovely, it was an off-putting thing, for the sun never touched it, and its boughs were cold and clammy, its ground sodden with dew. The village priest often visited the woodcutter to complain about the tree. This was in the days when the church tried to stand against the folk and send dozens of poor priests on doomed missions to kill or convert them. Yeah? Is that so? Here. You don't want this? I thought you did. You were reaching for it. But the woodcutter was too fearful of the folk to cut the tree down, and the priest went away only disappointed. What's the matter, honey? Tell mommy what you want. One winter's eve, after a particularly frustrating argument with the priest, the woodcutter decided that he might as well see if the fairies would help him. If not, he would consider cutting down the tree just to silence the tedious priest. The woodcutter traveled along the path that was sometimes there and sometimes not, and the fairy tree was all aglow in the darkness, its golden light spilling over the snow like coins, and the woodcutter heard in the distance the sound of bells and clinking cutlery. He knelt and asked for the fairy to give him a hand. He waited for a long time, but there was no reply, and the music played on. The folk attended to their dinner, and the woodcutter went away disappointed. Hey, what's wrong? Do you want this? What's this? What's that? Yeah, very cool. The woodcutter realized something drastic had to be done, so he took his axe and he went into the woods, pretending to go about his usual business. The cat followed him, as it always did, purring, and the woodcutter reached a quiet spot, and then he split the cat in two with his axe. What? Who didn't see that coming? That's crazy. That's actually, why would you do that? The next morning, there was no cat watching him from the foot of the bed. Well, no kidding. Well, obviously there's no cat anymore. Am I losing it? Have I been enchanted by, I have no idea what's going on here. Feeling pleased with himself, the woodcutter took up his axe and traveled along the path that was sometimes there and sometimes not. He planned to destroy the fairy tree just as the folk had destroyed his happiness. But no sooner had his first stroke resounded through the woods than he heard music in the distance. It was not the song of simple folk that dwelt in the tree, but the music of the tall ones, and they were calling to him. Terrified, the woodcutter tried to stop his ears, and then he grabbed a hold of the tree like a drowning man, even as his feet started to move toward the song. At that moment, the white cat stepped out of the shadow of the tree, and the cat told him that it had protected him all along. Yeah, well, that's what you get, right? I hear you. When the woodcutter's brother, tired of charity, had poisoned his food, the cat had eaten it. Hold on, honey. Hold on. Check this out. When the woodcutter's wife had taken the woodcutter's money in secret and gambled it away, the cat chased her out of the house. High five. Okay. Hold on. What's wrong? We're in the middle of a story. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Why are you upset? You want out of there? Yeah, you want out? You want out? Should we go in the playpen? Do you want to go in here? Do you want to go in there? In there? Yeah? Okay, but you can't get upset. You don't even want a snack to take with you? Okay, honey, I said don't get upset. I'm coming. Honey. Okay, honey. Honey, I'm coming. I'm coming. But mommy has to be able to carry the other stuff. Mommy can't carry you and all the stuff, right? Right? Okay, well, let's try then, I guess. We'll put this here ahead of time. Mommy will sit right there. And Mommy will take her book and we'll all go in together. No coffee for Mommy, I guess? Yeah. Okay, if we go in together, are we okay? No, we're not okay in here? Do you want to go in your room? Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, those are flowers. Those are from you and Daddy for Mommy's birthday, remember? Do you want to sit down? Okay, there's all your toys. Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. Whee! Oh, what's this? Oop. What's this indeed, she says. Okay, so to clarify for anyone who is unable to keep track of the flow of things while someone is screaming at us, the cat has been there protecting him from all the bad things that have been happening in his life, but he just thought that they were other bad things, like, oh, my wife left me because of the cat, or my food was eaten because of the cat, but he was actually protecting him from poison and bad things. So there you go. And every time the woodcutter had gone into the woods, the cat had protected him from the tall ones, muffling their song with its purring. But now that the cat was dead, it could no longer protect him. The woodcutter was never heard from again. Although the fairy tree still stands, the path that is sometimes there and sometimes not is closed to mortal and may never be found again. What? What? Hey, Ashley, that's a crazy story. So the moral of the tale here is the cat was part fae. It was trying to help, and he looked a gift horse in the mouth and was never heard from again. Wow. Bad news bears all around. Right, sweetheart? Right? Can you say yeah? No, you can't say yeah? Can you say yeah? Yeah, that's your book. Which one is that? Farm Animals. Yeah. What does it say? It says, Animali della fattoria. Farm Animals. I wish Sasha to read for Audible. Oh, baby screams and all. I mean, it's less pleasing with the baby screams. I will say that, but we do what we can do, right? We're doing our best. Here, have this horse. Okay. The next one is called The Tree's Bones. That's a weird name for a story. The Tree's Bones. Yeah, The Tree's Bones, honey. It's weird. Can you open this? Here, you read your book and Mommy will read her book, okay? It's a book. You want to read with me? Okay, let's read together. Are you ready? A successful whaler lived along the edge of a bay. Much of his success came from FJOLSKYLDA. Yeah, probably. And there's an asterisk for it, so let's see what it is. That word is a charming Lossland term that can be loosely translated as family, used to describe a bond that formed between mortals and brownies. Brownies in Lossland, as in other countries, sometimes attach themselves to one household and exclusively provide magical services to its inhabitants. Often they dwell in a rock feature somewhere on its property. Yeah, my cute angel. The bond seems to be generational, although further research is needed to determine whether this is a variable thing, as it often is on the continent. For example, northern Italy, where brownies choose favored mortals with whom to bond, and they often abandon any offspring upon his or her death. So they don't care for your children, they just care for you, I guess, is the point of this. Very nice. Let's read this story about them. So, a successful whaler lived alone at the edge of the bay. Much of his success came from his family, who had sworn to protect him from the tall ones and other wicked fairies in exchange for habitation in his house during the new moon. The whaler found this advantageous as a bargain, for he needed to travel to town once a month to sell his catch anyway. The whaler's path into town ran through the forest inhabited by a great many folk who never gave him a lick of trouble. And one day, though, as he neared the halfway point of his journey, he came upon a strange white wolf, larger than any he had ever seen, standing in his path. The wolf gave a howl, and more wolves appeared, each one larger than the last. Terrified, the whaler mounted his horse and fled back home. He was so afraid that he forgot all about his bargain with the whatever that word is for family, and he ran inside just as they were sitting down to dinner at his table. Instantly, the fairies vanished. From the shadows, a voice scolded him. "Never again will we dine here, and never again will you have our protection. You need not have run from the wolves, and thus you betrayed us twice over in distrusting our promise to you and interrupting a fine banquet." The whaler cursed his mistake. He delayed his next visit into town and then delayed it again until he had to choose between taking the forest path and starvation. So he set off along the path full of weariness and worry, and sure enough, as he neared the halfway point, he met the white wolves again. This time, they chased him into the forest along the fairy path, and then they came upon a huge tree. Its bark was as white as the wolves themselves, and it was fat with blossoms and green leaves, although it was nearing the start of winter. Hey, Monique. The whaler gave a cry, hanging back from the branches as a gruesome assembly of corpses, the skeletons of other travelers as well as animals and birds, hung there. The wolves threw off their wolfskins, revealing themselves as the folk, and commanded the whaler to bring them the bones of his next catch. Ooh, creepy. The whaler went away weeping. He knew that the fairies must have some terrible reason for what they were doing, but without that family, he was powerless to deny them. The next month, he brought them the bones of 3 whales. The fairies strung them up the tree alongside the other bones, and the whaler noticed that the fairies hung the bones on one side of the tree only. And when the whale bones had been hung, the tree gave a tremendous groan and leaned a little to the north. The fairies ordered the whaler to bring them the bones of his next catch. The next month, the whaler brought the fairies the bones of 4 whales. These hung from the trees, and when they did so, the tree gave another groan and leaned even farther to the north. The whaler grew afraid. He realized that this tree must be a gale of the fairy king, who had gone mad many, many years ago and been locked away by his subjects. The fairies ordered the whaler to bring them the bones of his next catch. Seems to be a trend, right? The whaler begged the family for help, but none of them would heed him, none except the most elderly among them, a fairy woman whose head came up to the whaler's belt, who had grizzled hair so long trailing behind her that it gathered all of the leaves and mud as she walked. The fairy promised to help him only if he agreed to marry her. The whaler shuddered in disgust, but he gave his word nevertheless, for he feared the mad fairy king above all else, and he knew there would be great woe throughout Lostland if he were allowed to escape. The fairy took the whaler to her family graveyard, where they dug up the bones of the dead, and they snuck through the forest to the white tree and buried the bones under the boughs. The next month, the whaler brought the fairies the bones of 7 whales, and as before, they hung them from the white tree, but this time the tree gave no groan, nor did it move. Furious, the fairies ordered the whaler to bring them the bones of the next catch, as well as the bones of the whaler's horse. The next month, the whaler brought them the bones of 10 whales, as well as the bones of one of the fairy horses buried in the graveyard. The fairies hung them from the tree, but again, the tree neither moved nor spoke. The fairies turned on the whaler, convinced that the trickery was afoot. But before they could reach him, the bones of the dead horse gave a whinny. I know, it's crazy, right? The skeletal hands of the dead fairy rose up out of the dirt and strangled the servants of the wicked king. They had been holding on to the roots of the white tree, preventing it from falling over and releasing the king from his prison. The whaler, much relieved, hung the dead bodies of the king's servants from the south side of the tree. The whaler married his fairy bride, and although she remained shriveled and unlovely as ever, the whaler never broke his vow to his wife, and she rewarded him with 3 strong children who drew whales out of the deep with their beautiful singing, and the whaler died an old rich man, quite content. I didn't see that coming. What a story, my angel. What a story. Wow. These are wild. There's more. The ivory tree. Nota bene. I include this particular story in part because it falls outside the usual patterns. I hypothesize that it's either been purposely truncated or is so new that it has not yet been worn and smoothed into a more pleasing shape. Okay. The story. The ivory tree. You ready? There was once a young girl of such surpassing beauty that all her neighbors whispered that she had fairy ancestry. Look, there she goes, the girl who's strange, no question. Dazed and distracted, can't you tell? Sorry. You think that's funny? Her golden hair, oh, maybe not. And her golden hair turned white when the winter sun touched it, and she sang so sweetly that even the wind upon the mountaintops quieted its howls to listen to her. Her mother had been just as lovely, and she died in childbirth, and when she did so, the midwife swore that half of her body simply melted away, leaving only the skeleton behind, and so she must have been half fae through her father, for his identity was unknown. Hey, Jen. The girl wished to marry a carpenter, a handsome young man much respected in the village, but he was afraid of her. The young man was also afraid of offending her, given her fairy ancestry, and so he gave her an excuse, saying that his wife must have a sizable dowry. He knew this girl, an orphan, dependent upon her uncle's charity, and was penniless. The girl was a friend. Is it a Poopies? Is it Poopies? Yeah, you want a diaper change? I think she came up to sit in my lap because she needs a diaper change. Sorry, guys. We will... After these messages, we'll be right back. We don't leave the babies in Poopies. Okay, we're standing up. You did it. I did it. Mommy got up. Mommy got up. gonna change our diaper. We're gonna change our diaper. We're gonna change our diaper for someone very cute. Boop, boop. It's you. You're the very cute. You're the very cute. Yeah. Is that a flashcard of a puppy? What does a puppy say? It says woof woof. It says woof woof. Right? Is that what puppies say? They say woof woof. Yeah? What do you think? A puppy, that's right. Puppy says woof woof. Woof woof. Alright. We're going to get all cleaned up. All cleaned up. Yes, yes, yes. No dirty bottoms. Yeah? No dirty bottoms. No dirty bottoms allowed. We don't do that. We don't do dirty bottoms. No, no, no. No, no, no. Dirty bottoms. No, no, no. Yeah. Okay, should we put on a clean diaper? What do you think? I think we should. Let's put on a clean diaper. Let's put on a clean diaper. Let's put on a clean diaper and include some diaper cream. Boop, boop. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, my angel. Let's close this up. Then Mommy can wash her hands, and then we can go back to reading. Okay, what do we think about getting our leggies back in our jam jams? There you go. One leg, two leg, zip, 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 zip. Good job. You did great. Yeah, you think that's funny? Can Mommy wash her hands? Okay, scrub it up, up. Scrub it up, dub, 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 dub. You like that song? Thank you for liking my songs, honey. It makes me feel really nice. Makes me feel like you like my songs. What's in this bin? You want to explore what's in here? There's so many toys in there you haven't played with in a little bit. And we're back. Sorry about that brief intermission, but you know how it goes. We don't leave a poopy diaper. Wait, what's wrong? What's wrong, baby? What is it, sweetheart? Wait, why all of a sudden crying? Honey, what's wrong? What happened? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Horsey? No? This one? Are you hungry? Look at Mommy. Look at Mommy. Sweetheart, do you want a snack? Are you hungry? Yeah? Okay. I can get it. I'll get it right here. Hold on. I'll even get myself my coffee while I'm doing it. How do you feel about that? Coffee for Mommy. Snack for you. Mm-hmm. You want this? Here, look. I'll even make you a little table. There you go. How do you feel about that? We're feeling good about it, right? Yeah. 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 Okay, where were we? The ivory tree. Sorry about the intermission. The girl was friend to all simple folk and often ran with them in the woods, particularly after the fresh snow had fallen, for her feet left no prints in fresh snow, only which she had breathed the air of the mortal world. One day she came across a fairy that she had never seen before. He had no body, only two black eyes and a swirl of frost where his cloak should have been. The other folk warned her not to speak to him, but the girl did not heed them. The bodiless fairy led her deep into the woods where they came upon a beautiful white tree with bark as smooth as bone. The fairy told her that such a dowry would greatly please her beloved, who would surely hew wondrous treasures from bowl and bough alike. The girl hesitated, for she knew that it was a great crime to cut down a fairy tree, which surely the white tree was, but she was too in love to even resist. She took up an axe and began to chop, but before the third stroke fell, a great wind went up and the tree's leaves dropped upon her. The moment they touched her, she went mad. She returned home and donned her uncle's sealskin cloak and packed a bag for a journey into the mountains. The carpenter, a vain young man who enjoyed reveling in the affections of one as beautiful as she, thought that although he had no intentions of marrying her, came to visit her and caught her in the act of fleeing. He tried to stop her, but she killed him with the touch of a frozen heart. Whoa! When the townsfolk found the carpenter's body, they pursued the girl with dogs, sleighs, and horses. They found her eventually, and still marching doggedly into the wilderness, her eyes were alight with madness, and they shot her dead. Wow. I didn't even know they had guns. Now, I have prepared these last two stories because it's a common belief in Hrafnik that the white tree drove the girl mad, and it's the same tree as the one from the Whaler's story, which held the Fairy King. What's more, some of the older villagers are convinced that the tree can be found in Karaskor. Thora swears that she stumbled upon it once in her youthful traipsing about days, and she offered to provide me directions to it. When I informed Bambly of my intention to search for the tree, I desperately wished to photograph it for my encyclopedia. He was full of arguments. Naturally, he assumed that I would drag him along, which was indeed my intention, as nothing could amuse me more than watching Bambly slog through the miles of snow nary a nap in sight, although I had little intention of arguing with him about it. I left him in his blustering in the cottage, where he was supposed to be drafting our abstract, but he kept wandering off to make tea or stand by the window and expostulate about the cold. I grow increasingly convinced that he obtained his doctorate by means of fairy enchantment. So difficult is it to imagine him actually applying himself to anything resembling work. Wow, those stories were crazy, honey. They were crazy. Yeah, they were. What did you do with the snacks? What did you do with them? Where are they? Wait, hold on. Where is it? You want this one? You want this one? Eat? Yeah, you want me to put it on there? Okay, here, look. There you go. See? All better. So those stories were crazy, to say the least. And now we are on the 14th of November. Yes, 14th November. Today I went to Groa's shop to gather supplies for our journey to the tree. By Thora's estimation, the hike will take about 3 hours each way, and the village is carpeted in snow, partially melted by a storm that came in from the sea. I have been assured by Christian that the recent fall is but another clearing of the throat by Old Man Winter, but when he truly settles himself over Hrafnik, I will know it. Upon exiting the shop with my parcels, I could not help my gaze from straying to the farmhouse across the road. The curtains were drawn as usual, and the sheep huddled in a corner of the field. Altogether, the place had such an unwholesome air about it that it was hard to look away, dark smoke drifting sluggishly from the chimney like ooze from an infected wound. Taking a break from work to take the Christmas tree down. Ah, good idea. We need to do that as well. Hey, Katie. Mord was coming from the front of the house, and he gave me a wave before disappearing inside, and I stared in astonishment at the side of his head, which was mottled with bruisings, and returned to the shop to question Groa. For once, the merriness dimmed in her eyes. He was out rescuing his wife the other night, she told me. She nearly took a tumble into the sea. He pulled her back just in time. I see, I replied, and we left unsaid the oddness of a man sustaining such bruises in that scenario. Back at the cottage, I reported the news to Bambly. Well, what did you expect? He had absconded from his notes entirely and was seated by the fire, rubbing Shadow's ears. The creature is clearly bent on driving both of them insane. I don't know who the miserable wretch imagines it will be cared for by after its guardians have thrown themselves into the sea. They should kill it now and be done with it, honestly. And kill their son in the process? Their son may at this moment be suffering any number of torments. He may never be returned to them. We just don't know. He went back to Shadow's ears while I fumed. I have not been able to convince him to care about Mord and Oslog's plight.
It could be worse, he said. Maud and Oslog are likely to fall prey to these snow ghouls when the weather turns. It seems that the fate only threatens the lovesick and naive, and I've no doubt they've been disabused of the naivete where love is concerned. He saw my face then and gave one of his theatrical groans. Oh, tell them to be kind to it. This was the last thing I'd expected him to say. What? They keep the changeling shut up in the attic. Spoiling the brats rotten is the only way to appease them. He drummed his fingers on his knee, like you do with Poe. Really, Em, I thought you would have worked this out by now. I watched him. And that's what the parents of the stolen children in Ireland do, is it? The clever ones. He rubbed his nose. Just don't ask me to pay my respects again, please. I can't abide children, mortal or folk. Okay, you want to keep reading with Mommy? Yeah, you want to sit and read with Mommy? You can. 15 November. We found it. We found the tree. When we set out on our expedition, I was expecting either a scientific triumph or an utter catastrophe. Well, I should have expected both. The morning was dark, the wind clawed with frost crystals. What are you doing, sweetheart? No, don't hurt Mommy's book, please. Mommy likes this book. I was unsurprised to find Bambley still asleep at the appointed hour. He was near impossible to wake, and I began to fear that I would have to drag him from the bed. Oh, honey. I could not determine if he was wearing anything, and that was my problem. Hey, what's wrong? Do you want more food? It's over there. What's that? Is that snack? Do you want your snack? What's that? The horsey's gonna eat it. Nom, 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 nom. The horsey's eating your snack. You better go get it. Yeah. What if the horsey eats it? Can you get it? Here's Elmo. What does Elmo have to say? Elmo loves you. Elmo loves you. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He loves you. You want this book? You want to hold this book? You can. Okay. I see now why you faked the Schwarzwald study, I said, and here I thought that it was all ruthlessness. Laziness, Em, he intoned from beneath his pile of blankets. Do you know how dense that bloody forest is? And you're well aware what sort of ground-trooping fairies can cover a single afternoon. Horrid self-involved folk, really. You would know, I said blandly. He roused himself eventually amidst a volcanic cloud of grumbles and remonstrations, and we set out. At the end, it was easy. In my earlier rambles, I had stumbled across a river that the tree grew beside, and Thora said that it could be found downstream past an elbow bend. What are you doing, baby? Here, look, go right here. What's this? Oh, can you stack the blocks on here? Where'd the other blocks? Here's some. Here's some. And a Saturn. The snow was too shallow to warrant snowshoes, but the partial melt had created an unpleasant little ice stream atop which the snow sat like a bridge made of feathers. Our feet remained dry, courtesy of the furred Lostlander boots that we had purchased prior to our departure, but the going was awkward over some cumbersome terrain. It was Bambley who saw the tree first. He came to a sharp halt, his brow furrowing, and I caught a gleam of white through the trees ahead. Different in quality to the surrounding snow, and shadow began to whine. Is that it? I marched onward, cursing as my boots broke through another rind of ice. I pushed the branch aside and drew in a sharp breath. There was no doubt that the tree before us was the tree. It could have stepped from the tails into the forest. It was centered in an oddly round clearing, as if the other trees had all felt inclined to back away, and it was towering but skeletal, its trunk only a little wider than I was, and its many, many branches arching and tangling overhead like a small person propping up a tremendous many-layered umbrella. But the strangest thing about the tree was its foliage. There were leaves of summer green mixed in with the fire of gold and autumn, tiny buds just opening their pink mouths here and there, and red fruits dangling in clusters with heavy ripeness. These fruits could not be easily identified. They were roughly the size of apples, but they were furred, like peaches. I felt a happy little glow start in my chest, for the tree, although utterly terrifying when viewed from an objective standpoint, was so evidently, so obviously folk, while at the same time it was nothing like anything I had seen before. Oh, I wished to learn everything about it. What in God's name are you doing? I called to Bambly, who had not moved from the riverbank. Come and tell me what you think is happening here. Is there really a king trapped in here? I could see him only in part through the forest, a smear of gold, and a hand on one of the trees, the edge of his black coat. Emily, he said, come away from there. A dreaminess fell over me, and I almost took a step, but my hand clutched reflexively on the copper coin that I carried in my pocket. It's something that I've practiced many times whenever a fairy has tried to bewitch me. He had never done this to me before. It was him doing it, not the tree. I could clearly hear it in his voice. I was suddenly filled with fury of such force my vision swam, which drove away the last vestiges of his enchantment. I will not, I replied, a dagger in each word, and he seemed to start back. Please, he said in his ordinary voice, please do come here. Why? He seemed to think, don't you trust me? Hi, beautiful. Come on, maybe kiss. Mwah. Mwah. You want a blow kiss? Mwah. Yeah? You're doing pretty good today, honey. I have to give you credit. For almost one, you're a very well-behaved young lady. For me? A block? Oh, thank you. What if I put it right here? It's over there. Can you get it? That threw me, but only for a moment. Well, of course not, I said. He fell to irritated muttering, chafing his arms and pacing back and forth. I turned back to the tree, keeping my hold on my coin. Despite my anger at Wendell, his actions made me cautious. I paced slowly around the circumference, taking photos, but I did not touch the tree. I kept an eye out for errant leaves that might fall upon me, bewitching me in some ghastly way. And when the branches moved against one another, an odd high sound was produced, like someone whistling a tune. Well, that's a perfectly ordinary sound for a tree to make, Bambly called. Nothing at all to worry about. Have you ever considered, I said, removing my measuring tape from my bag, that I might be more capable than you think? I have written dozens of papers, read hundreds of analyses. I've also had numerous first-hand dealings with the folk, from Hobbes to Boggles to extremely self-centered aristocrats. I don't doubt that most of your success to date is the result of your cleverness, but have you ever considered how much you owe to luck? My hand clenched. I finished the measurements without replying, base and canopy, and then I withdrew my field book and I began to take notes. I scraped at the snow and found trapped beneath it a thin carpet of leaves, and as I worked, Bambly's grumbling and stomping reached a volume one normally associates with a team of horses. If you would only tell me what you're so worried about, I said calmly, and if I'm being honest, I was rather enjoying myself now. I can't, he said through his teeth. Can't or won't. I literally and physically cannot tell you. Stop being dramatic. I'm not, he said with the most dramatic groan that I have ever heard him utter, and Shadow seemed to take inspiration from his histrionics and whined louder. I turned back to the tree. I could almost hear him stewing. Well, I let him. I fetched a pair of metal tweezers from my pack and carefully plucked a leaf from the frost. It was lovely, segmented like a maple leaf and white as the trunk and boughs, although it had a coating of short white hairs, like some sort of beast. I placed the leaf within a small metal box that I habitually use to collect such samples, many of which have found their place in the Museum of Dryadology and Ethno-Folklore at Cambridge. Unfortunately, the wind chose that moment to stir the leaves that I had uncovered, and I leapt aside as quickly as I was able, but one of them brushed my bare fingertips. Uh-oh! I felt a shock of cold, as if I had plunged my hand into ice melt. Damn it, I muttered, and I pressed the coin in my hand immediately, and the pain lessened. What? Bambly said, his hearing inconveniently sharp. Nothing. I thought you'd gone, but then I saw that you hadn't. That's it, he said. Shadow, go and collect your suicidal mistress. And I laughed. Oh, no, Shadow only responds to me. You think... But Shadow then burst upon the trees and leapt on me. I fell into a snowbank before I even knew what was happening, and he had grabbed my cloak in his teeth, and he was dragging me. Shadow! The dog seemed not to hear my shrieks. I slid over snow and roots, and my backside barked painfully against the rock. The land sloped a little toward the river, and with one final tug, Shadow slid me the rest of the way like an ungainly sled to land in a heap at Bambly's feet. I gathered myself, panting. Shadow! I snapped, full of fury and betrayal, and he hung his head low in that terrible doggish guilt. It felt every line of his body. But he didn't move from his position between me and the tree. Good boy. Bambley seized my hand and dragged me along the riverbank. Oh, I was going to kill him. I wrenched him so hard that he stumbled but did not fall, catching himself with that infuriating grace that he often tries to conceal. I yanked him again so that we were facing each other and grabbed his other arm, the better to shove him into the river with. His green eyes widened with outrage when I realized what I was intending to do. His golden hair then falling across his eyes, horrendously unfair that he should look so beautiful even when he's angry instead of going blotchy and beady-eyed just like a normal person. If I hadn't been decided on setting him into the river before, well, I sure was now. That was when the land broke open, showering us in snow and dirt. Roots wormed their way out of the soil, white and smooth as bone. They twined themselves around Bambley and yanked him onto his back, and then dragged him toward the white tree in an uncanny mirror of what I had undergone. Well, that's crazy. Wendell! I lunged forward, trying to wrench the roots away from him. They showed no interest whatsoever in me, nor in Shadow, who pounced and worried at them until they fell away. But more rose to take their place. Why does it want you? I cried at him. Hey, hi, Nikki. How are you? Why do you think, you cold-blooded lunatic of a woman? He yelled, clawing at the ground. This was followed by a series of curses that I assumed to be Irish. I stabbed at the roots with my pocket knife, and at the same moment, though, my mind was racing through stories, texts, journals. Can you not say it? He gave me one of his impossibly green glares. We were nearing the base of the tree, where a hollow-like mouth had yawned open, black and writhing with its roots like white worms. No! Oh, I breathed, and my pocket knife was heaving and having little effect. But I kept stabbing nevertheless. I believe I stabbed him once accidentally, for I had gone back into my mind. You can't reveal to me that you're folk. It must have been part of the enchantment that exiled you from your world. Is that it? I've heard of that. Yes, in the Gaelic changeling. It's a peripheral motif with Ulster's cycle. Bryston's theory that... Okay, and there's an asterisk here that I clearly missed. Sorry, guys. I don't know where I missed it. How did I miss it? I usually see them. Where did I miss it? Huh. Oh, it's right here at the end. Okay, fine. So we're not like behind on it. It's literally right at the end. There are, in fact, several stories from France and the British Isles which describe this sort of enchantment. In the two Irish tales, which may have the same root story, a mortal maiden figures out that her suitor is in exile of the courtly fae after he inadvertently touches her crucifix and it burns him. The folk in Irish stories are often burning themselves on crucifixes for some reason. She announces that aloud, which breaks the enchantment and allows him henceforth to reveal his fairy nature to whomever he chooses. Okay. The Irish are a very Catholic folk. Yeah. That's a cow. Cow is mook. Mooka. Yeah, very nice. Oh God, he moaned. She wants to discuss theory at a moment like this. I'm doomed, aren't I? The roots were pulling him deeper. I grabbed his shoulders and I yanked, but I only slipped in the snow and thumped onto my side. Shadow gripped Bambley's sleeve with his teeth and put his own back into it, but neither of us had the slightest effect. Well, what do you want me to do? I cried. I know what you are, Wendell. I said it, so you needn't reveal yourself. Can't you use your magic now? Can I help you? Yes, you can stop pontificating at me for half a second so that I can concentrate, he yelled over the lashing roots. I haven't done this in a very long time. I don't even know if I remember how. And would you please encourage your faint familiar to stop mauling at my cloak? I drew Shadow back. I took all of my strength, for he kept howling and lunging at Bambley's disappearing body. I don't know what I expected him to do, but something loud and impressive came certainly. What actually happened was both underwhelming and utterly terrifying. He folded himself into the earth, and he was gone. I've seen brownies and Troes do this, of course, but they're brownies and Troes. Creatures of leaf and moss, they're not Wendell. And when he did worse than that, stepping out of a tree on the other side of the river, creating a horrible confusion within me as my mind tried to convince my eyes that he had come from behind the tree. But of course he had not done so. Shadow grabbed at my cloak and started pulling again, but I was already running, and so we ran across the mostly frozen river like a bride from a nightmare, her train supported by a servant. The ice cracked near the far bank but did not break, and Bambley grabbed me before I fell. He tried to pull me on, but I dug my heels in and turned to watch the spectacle unfolding on the opposite shore. The white tree itself was still dreamlike, while beneath its roots writhed with impotent rage. Impotent rage, not important. Impotent, the exact opposite, right? The river ran too deep, but they could not burrow beneath it. I want a piece of bark, I said suddenly, and he gave me such a look of disbelief that I pressed on. For paper! We need illustrations, Wendell. Exhibits. How else do you expect people to understand? We can't go back there, and you cannot watch that thing crack my skull open and fill it with its monstrosities, he said. Perhaps I'll sit for an illustration after. What do you think? If I went alone, given that it paid me no mind before. He took me by the shoulders and he shook me. What is the matter with you? You are many things which I will be happy to enumerate later, but obtuse is not one of them. At that, my old habit, carefully honed, reasserted itself, and I gripped the coin in my pocket. The strange desire that had filled me receded, and I knew that, of course, if I went back to the white tree, it would seize me, and Wendell would have to come to my aid. I withdrew my hand from my pocket, but I saw no evidence of the chill that had gripped me when my fingers brushed against the leaf. Only my third finger trembled, and my hand pulled away again before Bambley noticed. What does the king want with you? I said, not needing an answer, but merely voicing my thoughts as they thumbed through the well-worn stories. Of course, to possess you, he has no substance left in that tree, right? No doubt. He was shivering so cold that I was a little sorry for him. I felt him reaching for me the moment that I stood above his roots. He's very ancient. His people locked him up in that tree because, well, I don't know. He believes it's horribly unjust, naturally. He's been sitting there fantasizing about revenge and murder and all the rest for centuries. I wondered that he could be so dismissive when he was an exiled royal himself, but his lack of sympathy seemed quite genuine. Fascinating. I watched the roots writhe, already piecing together an entry in my encyclopedia. Note to self, I must needs inquire after this manner of fairy gowdling. It is a feature in other tales of the hidden ones, I think. No doubt the folk of Lost Land stay far away from him, I said. And Bambley was gazing at the tree with an unreadable look. He is very powerful. He would let me use that power after whatever bloody rampage he's been plotting. You're not thinking of going back, I said, terror gripping me. You're bewitched. Oh, God, how would I stop him if he was bewitched? No, he said, and it seemed to answer more than my question. He turned away, and a sort of strange melancholy filled his eyes. No, let's go home. Bambley was nearly silent on the long and tedious journey back, which was most unlike him. I wondered if he was self-conscious after revealing himself to me, but of course that wasn't it. I don't think Bambley would be self-conscious if he were stripped naked and paraded through the streets of London. As soon as we had gone through the door of the cottage, he collapsed into one of the armchairs, nearly insensible. I got his boots off of him and discovered that his feet were so white as to be shading into blue. His face, too, was white, and he could not move his fingers. His eyes were very dark, barely any green in them at all now. An interesting phenomenon that I had a mind to examine further, but I managed to quell the scholarly impulse. Only when I had built the fire roaring and helped him into 3 blankets did he become himself again and begin moaning about tea, dinner, and chocolate. I would not have obliged his veiled demands, only I was genuinely worried about him, and so I put together an adequate dinner for both of us from the leftover stew that Odd had donated in the morning and Poe's latest confection. I even, against my better judgment, gave him the last of the sheep cheese that I had been saving for my own supper, because I'd grown rather fond of it. Yeah? Your blood is too thin, I said, goadingly. I'm afraid, for it's not every day that one proves itself stronger than a fairy prince. I suppose the Irish folk are only adapted to dreary rainstorms and the occasional frost. And more rainstorms, of course. Did they have any other weather in Ireland? He glowered at me from behind his mug. I had made him chocolate after all. We cannot be made of stone and pencil shavings, he replied. Oh, sorry, we cannot all be made of stone and pencil shavings. I think he's implying that that's what she's made of. After supper, he fell asleep in the chair, and I helped him to his bed. To my great amusement, one of his conquests showed up shortly thereafter, apparently for a pre-arranged rendezvous. This was a pretty dark-haired young thing, and yet another of Thora's granddaughters. I was sorely tempted to show her the state of her paramour after a hike of only a few hours, and not a particularly difficult one, for Lostlanders appeared to prize hardiness above all else, amusing myself in imagining a dent that it would put in Bambley's appeal. Well then. What do you think of that, my angel? Okay, yes, we're all done. I know. You want to go have breakfast? Are you all done? You didn't like your snack? Well, that was a great, crazy couple of pages, right? Were they crazy? Were those pages crazy? Yeah, crazy pages. And we'll read more on Monday, of course. And I hope you all have a great weekend. We are going to go to the farmer's market and then to a birthday party, and it's going to be